Welcome back, everybody, to another outstanding episode of the Square Table Degenerates podcast. We're joined today by Carmen DeFranco and Mr. Eric Swinderman, writers and directors of the movie Enormity of Life. How are you guys today?
Doing well. How about yourself, Joe?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you doing today, Eric?
Good. Long day. Been at this since 9 this morning.
Oh, so you've been doing the media blitz all week, huh?
Somewhat.
Trying at least.
I would be happy if it were a blitz. We're getting there.
Right. I mean, you start small, and then eventually you just blow up as you go. You know how it goes, man.
We're trying.
So, where did you guys meet? Whose idea was it to do this?
So, Eric and I. So, Joe and I. We should say for those who don't know, Joe and I actually went to high school together. We met, I want to say, in August of '91 at freshman football practice. But Eric and I went to college together, and we met at Cleveland State. It would have been '96, right, Eric? You were
96. Yep.
Yeah, and hung out a little bit back then. We did. We both were into comedy. Eric had he was taking filmmaking classes, and we ended up doing a sketch comedy show together for a little while.
We watched Mike Tyson bite Evander Holyfield's ear together.
We did do that, yeah, and. I ended up, leaving college and playing tennis professionally and doing a few other things. And Eric stayed and became a filmmaker, and that's his profession, his hobby, or whatever it may be.
It's how I pay the bills.
And then a few years ago, he contacted me and said, "Hey, I have an idea for a film, and it needed a scene with an attorney." And he contacted me.
It started off where, Carmen and I tend to have similar sensibilities in terms of comedy or what's funny. And although I think you have a greater affinity for movies like Caddyshack and stuff than I do. But
that is true.
But so I'm writing this movie, and I had fairly recently released a film called Made in Cleveland, which came out in 2013. It had like Busy Phillips and Gillian Jacobs in it. And so I had taken some time off. I was working for ABC, and then I had this idea, and I started tinkering with it. And it was really an incomplete idea, but as it started to grow, I knew I needed to write this scene with really like probate law in it. And I was like, well, I don't want to sound like an idiot and not get it right. So I said, hey, do you want to take a look at this scene or help me write this scene? And Carmen came back with this scene that was really funny, but it also was very accurate in terms of legalese. And I remember he said, hey, that was fun. Do you mind if we write a few more scenes together? And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we were collaborating at that point.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So it was Eric's idea to write it, and you hit up Carmen, and then you guys just started collabing on it.
Yeah, it started kind of like, hey, take a look at this scene. What do you think? Is this funny? Is this not funny? And then Carmen would say, hey, I want to take a stab at this scene. I like this character. I like this idea. He would send me something. What do you think of that? And, I have a little bit more skin in, so I would kind of like, all right, well, let's tweak the dialogue a little bit and play it up. And the last thing you want is to have a script seem like it had two writers. So it really had to have one voice. So it kind of took on my voice, but with all of our ideas scrunched together so that it had that feel of one congruent film. But yeah, I mean, we and then once he came on board, I mean, every scene was back and forth. Take a look at this. What do you think? Is this funny? Is this not funny? Is this over the line? We had a lot of is this over the line conversations. And
yes, we did.
Ultimately, the answer was usually yes. And we had to really taper it back in. And some of the over the line stuff really made it into the film, and then the first cut. And then we had to cut a lot out just because we went, yeah, the world changes so fast from 2015 when we finished the script to 2018. Certain things you just couldn't say anymore. You couldn't do anymore. It happened that quickly. We had to cut a lot of stuff out.
Yeah.
Now, that leads into my next question. When did you start writing this? Well, we got some feedback here. And how long did it take you guys to finish the script?
We started writing it, I want to say like 2013, wasn't it?
I don't think it was that early. We probably spent maybe 6 to 8 months going back and forth with it. So I think probably we finished it in April of 2015.
Right.
So we were probably working on it a good portion of 2014.
Okay.
And then when we hit print and sent it over to the WGA, that was March 31st, maybe?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. I just remember the date for some reason. Because all your scripts have that original draft date on it, and I remember seeing that a lot.
And WGA is the Writers Guild of America. It's sort of how we initially protected the film for copyright or things like that. We've since obviously gotten copyrights and whatnot, but that was the first step in that. It is sort of interesting though to look back on it. We wrote the whole script in two different places. I'm up in the Detroit area now, and Eric's still down in Cleveland. We were never in the same room together until the night before we started filming, and we both realized that one scene wasn't right, and we sat down in a room and actually rewrote the whole scene the day before we started filming, and that was sort of like a full circle kind of moment where we had written 118 pages of a script completely separate from each other, and then the night before we say action, we get together and we rewrite.
That was the psychiatrist script, right?
Yeah, the psychiatrist scene.
And it wasn't even a bad scene, really. It was just that it just needed more punch to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, was there any personal life inspiration for the script at all, or was it just totally random? What was the background for this entire thing? Like, where did you draw inspiration from?
I mean, little bits and pieces always are going to float in, for example, the carousel in the film, which is a big symbolic piece of the film, that has a lot to do with my childhood. I grew up in a small town, and there was this carousel, and so that portion of the movie and the parts about, the world changing and stuff, that probably came from me growing up in this small town, but then spending the majority of my life in a big city like Cleveland, but always kind of looking back at that small town and with somewhat fond memories sometimes, and sometimes, not as fond. Now you have the 2020 vision, but then there's the character of Missy, who plays Breckin's sister, who's really a hybrid, I think, of one of Carmen's. Am I allowed to say this?
No. We could just say
sister and my sister kind of go together, and I don't even really probably know your sister that you're referring to.
I do.
But this character is pretty awful. So I just hope that we're not in a lot of trouble. But she's really the worst thing in the movie, and she was the biggest. She had the biggest part on the cutting board because she was so awful that we were worried that people were going to think she was me or she was Carmen, and we were that awful. Yeah. When you start dropping the F word derogatory term for homosexual and calling people that and calling people all, and of course that's her character and that's who she is and that's not who we are. But, you write a movie, you're not writing it in a vacuum, and you have friends and family who watch the movie and go, wow, is that what he really thinks?
Yeah.
So we cut a lot of that because we're just like, it's too abrasive. There's no way.
There's a funny side story to that, actually, and that is, so Eric and I never discussed who the inspiration for Missy was until, after we had written this really big dramatic scene, we had sort of gotten together and said, it's kind of humorous that, you're writing so much. It's like you're in my head. And then we started realizing, well, you're writing about somebody in your life, I'm writing about somebody in my life. And it sort of dovetailed together. When early on, when we were trying to sell the script, there was somebody gave us a comment like, everything is good in the script except the one character, Missy, is just, nobody is like that. And we couldn't help but laugh because that's the only character who's like based on an actual human being in the movie. And that was the one that they thought was too overboard.
And to be clear, my stepsister is who it was based on, who I haven't spoken to in like 20 years. But to my knowledge, she's not a raging homophobic racist, but my portion of that was mostly based on the whole money thing and the situation when my father passed away and there was an estate, and so I kind of drew inspiration from that.
And I, when I wrote the attorney scene, which we'll be lucky enough to have both Missy on in a few minutes and Alan O'Reilly, who plays the attorney Abe Berkman. I think I had a little bit of fun with that scene because while it's not necessarily the type of law I practice, I find myself often being in court and, something would happen and all I want to do is say the funny comment that's in my head that would, probably get me thrown in jail for contempt or whatever. And I like the idea of being able to sort of channel that through Abe and actually just not have that filter and just say the obscure, absurd, ridiculous thing at the moment that that it comes into my head. So that was where that was his direction.
Okay. And how do you secure funding for something like this? I mean, this is a pretty elaborate script. There's on location scenes. Do you just write a script and then sell it off and then it's like eBay highest bidder? How does one even begin to get into something like that?
Well, my style tends to lend itself to a little bit lower budget because I'm more of I write more character driven stuff. I don't write alien films or action movies or whatever. So my stuff lends itself to more of that indie style to begin with. But I had done this Made in Cleveland movie and we funded it with investors. We brought investors in to basically give us money for a piece of the pie. If the movie sells and we make money off of it, then they'll get their money back plus however much equity they have in the film. So we kind of perfected that this time around, or at least came as close to perfecting it as we could, and sold off points in the film. Points are a percentage of the profits of the film, and it's a pretty common term in the industry, mostly for producers and stars of the film. Jack Nicholson got paid only in points for Batman, for example, and that's why he became literally the highest paid actor in the history of Hollywood, because he only got paid based on owning a piece of the movie. So we sold off these points to investors. I don't think we had a single investor who had ever invested in a movie before.
Nope.
Most of them had invested in something. Some hadn't. We had a couple people who were working as crew and just saw that we were doing something special and came to us and said, I want in. Do you have more points? That happened twice, I think, on the set. And then we had Deb, who's joining us now. This movie doesn't happen without Deb.
Absolutely not.
Because she and I did a little short film together, 6 months to a year before we were filming. And I don't even remember how it happened because I had known Deb a couple of weeks. Really, I just cast her in a film and we were sitting on set of that film. And next thing I know, I'm giving her the script and she's reading it and she's getting back to me like literally probably the next day saying, I can sell this. I know people who will invest in this. And within weeks, we had a big fat check, the kind of check that we said we can turn the lights on the office and say we're making a movie.
Yeah.
And then it started to roll from that point. It felt like at that point, like people were handing me bigger checks than I'd ever seen in my life. And I'm literally going to the bank thinking like, are they thinking that I'm doing something illegal? Because why is anybody handing me a check for, $27,000 or whatever, So it was, and it just kind of rolled like dominoes. But then as the movie grew and we kept adding more big names to the film, I mean, it started with one name and ended with 3 big names. We had to figure out how to make the budget bigger and keep adding more points and more investors to it. So the budget grew while we were filming, really.
Yes.
We realized this is going to cost more than we thought. We're going to have to figure out a way to raise more money. So we were raising money while we were shooting the film.
Yes.
Even though we had enough probably to finish the movie, before we started, just not enough to finish it the way we saw it evolving.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we welcome, as you just saw, I brought up Miss Debra Herzog to the show. She played Missy in the movie. How are you today, Missy?
I'm great. How's my framing?
You're doing good. You're on your cell phones. You're beautiful and visible in the shot. Now, if you guys want to take a moment, we could play Missy's clip from the movie here. Give me a second.
Yeah, Missy, you're going to be on camera, or your performance.
That sounds awesome.
World premiere, pretty much, of Debra Herzog as Missy.
World premiere of this clip. Nobody else is going to bring this to you except the STD podcast live every Friday night at 9:30. Please subscribe and like and share the stream if you haven't already. All right, bear with me here. I'm going to go full screen with this. Full screen with this, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on. All right, this is now, Missy. Can you set up this theme real quick? Or Deb, can you set up this theme real quick?
Well, what we have here is, I don't want to say too much.
Yeah.
Eric, you set up the scene. I'll say too much.
Breckin, Casey, played by the amazing Breckin Meyer, as a lot of people know from stage or film and screen. He has come into a little bit of money, and his estranged sister, who he hasn't spoken to in a while and has had a rocky relationship, comes a calling as only his sister would.
Yep.
All right, then we'll start this. Now, if this sound doesn't play right away, I'll restart. But so the first, give me in the green room, give me a thumbs up if the sound's good when I play this. All right, here we go.
I can't believe I'm going to say this. I will think about it. How much do you need just to get by?
Half.
Get out.
What?
I can't believe for a second I fucking fell for that. I lost my mind. For a second, I actually thought you might have a sincere bone in your body. Okay, I could give you money, but that's just like pissing it away. You either snort it or smoke it. Where the fuck you're into now?
Screw you and your high and mighty moral authority. This is just like you, Casey. You think you're so perfect. God's gift to the fucking world. Well, if you're so goddamn special, why did you drop out of college, huh?
Because I had to take care of our train wreck of a mother while you banged your way through the white pages. You're welcome, by the way.
Yeah? Well, if you're such an amazing son, did you even know that your mother is missing again?
Missy, what do you mean?
Missing, like all the other times.
Shit. How long?
What am I, her parole officer?
She'll turn up. All right, she always does.
Whatever. You can't keep me from that money, Casey. It's just as much mine as it is yours.
Great scene. I love the improvial words of the F word. That's pretty awesome there. Well, also joined by Alan O'Reilly. We'll add him to the screen. How you doing today, sir?
Good.
Well,
How are you,
got some,
hey, guys.
Hey, Alan.
Deb, while she's up here on the screen. Now, Deb, what describe your role? I mean, as you can see, this is pretty controversial. We were talking about your character a little earlier. Describe your role as it was in the movie, and how'd you hear about it?
Well, I found out about the role when I read the script. Eric mentioned we met while he was filming the short film, and I just fell in love with the script. So that's when I met Missy. She's pretty angry, isn't she? She's
got some problems.
Yeah, she's pretty manipulative. She wants what she wants, and she doesn't want to hear no. So that was fun to see her again. I haven't seen her in a while.
That's cool. Now, how long were you in Cleveland for this?
Well, I live just outside of Cleveland, so I'm in the area. I'm local.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you didn't have to go far for it.
Yeah, Joe. We should point out, with the exception of the three, Giselle Eisenberg, Breckin Meyer, and Emily Kinney, with the exception of those three, pretty much every other actor is a local Clevelander. Although Alan O'Reilly, who now joins us, has recently moved back to, is it New York, Alan?
I'm in New York. Yeah, actually, Long Island, just outside of New York.
Yeah, but he was living in Cleveland at the time too. So
That's
all
right.
of the other actors and crew and everybody involved with the film is all local Cleveland talent.
Okay. Now, Deb, what other movies were you in besides this one?
Oh gosh, this is the first. This is really the first. I did a little bit with a television show called The Outsiders, which was on WGN. That was filmed in Pittsburgh back in, that season aired in 2017. So, I really just got started with acting and modeling about 5 years ago. So it's kind of new. It's new for me, and I love it.
And what I will say, and I'm sure Eric will back me up on this, Deb does a spectacular job really going outside of who she is to try to play the horrible person that we put on paper, because Deb is nothing like that person, and yet she captures that character so well, and it was really fun to watch her go through that and be that person. It was really fun to see.
That's cool. Now, are you anything? We were talking about the inspirations for the characters earlier, and I was chuckling. But are you anything like the character at all, or what's your real life like?
Me?
Yeah.
Are you asking me out?
No.
Is that what's happening here? No. Inspiration. Well, Eric and Carmen, writers of the script, they shared some of their inspiration for the character, and I think they know someone like Missy. So just hearing their experience with those people in their lives and pulling Missy together, and I'd have to admit, and I know people that are like Missy. I tapped into some things that I've experienced in my life too. But
I'll also add that before Deb officially came on to the project, we had offered the role to Katherine Hahn, who's now blown up on WandaVision. She was already big before, but she's a Clevelander, a native Clevelander. And we had talked about there was at one point where another well-known actor, an Asian actor, was in talks for the lead role, and so we talked about Margaret Cho in that role. We talked about Laura Keitlinger.
Yep.
And Laura Keitlinger actually signed on as a letter of intent to that, she would be interested in doing it. But once Deb came onto the project, and I just worked with her on this movie called Worker Bee, where we just had so much fun on the set working together, and it just felt like we were sharing the same headspace a lot in character development and everything. And Deb came on as a producer, and it just became a natural progression of well, why don't you play Missy? There definitely needs to be a role for you in this film. And aside from Emily, Emily Kinney's role, there really wasn't another sort of female lead to offer. So it just became obvious to us that it needed to be Deb.
It's interesting that you say that, Eric, because it reminds me of when we were spending so much time doing the business development of the movie and pulling everything that needed to be pulled together. And we were sitting in your office, and I think we were at the point where we were going over the script and outlining all of the props needed, line by line. Okay, we need a prop for this. Let's put it on the list of things that we need to get. And you didn't really see me do Missy. Not really. I didn't really go through the same audition process that other people did.
Right.
There's just something about it that you knew I could do. And we'd never really talked about it. And in that moment, I said to you, Eric, are you wondering at all if I can pull off Missy?
I remember that.
And you said, no, I'm not worried about it. No, you got it. And I thought, well, let's talk about it. And we did talk about it. And when we talked about it, we talked about as if we knew her and we were describing her. And even though I still wasn't running lines of Missy, we both knew that I knew that I understood. And I
just remember the only thing I asked you to do was not to work with any other coaches on that role.
You did. Yeah.
Because I didn't want two people getting into your head and how to play it. And then you get there and the director says, where did you get that? Oh, my acting coach told me I should do this. And the acting coach hasn't read the whole script. They don't know. So I just said, just do me a favor. If you're going to work with somebody, just don't work with them on that role. Yeah. And so I think we were always on the same page.
And I just want to point out one more thing. Deb, in addition to, being a producer and getting us investors and introducing us to people like that, and playing a spectacular part of Missy, she was really instrumental in a lot of our location scouting and really getting us a deli to do a role in, or the office that ultimately becomes Abe Berkman's office with Alan. So she really was a jack of all trades, or a Jill, I guess, of all trades. And this film owes a tremendous debt of gratitude to her. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
On a slight tangent, so stop me if there's a time issue or anything like that. But
Nope.
So the thing that I remembered, I was with Deb a lot on location scouting, and I can think of 2 to 3 to 4 times where I was with her, and she got a yes from the owner of the property or the building or whatever, like on site, first time meeting before we left. And it was like, just nobody wants to say no to Deb. And it's not that they're afraid of her. Yeah. They just love her as soon as they meet her. I think one of the property managers wanted to marry her that day. And so it was just amazing to see people so quickly fall in love with her 5 minutes after they met her and go, yeah, what do you need? How long do you need it for?
Yeah.
All acting that good.
Yeah. Not just how long do you need our property for? We'll do it for free and we'll feed your people if you like. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, and we'll cut holes in the ceiling.
Yeah.
And put reinforced steel in there for the scene that we needed some stunts for, and we're not going to charge you to repair the ceiling when we're done. It was
remarkable.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, before we introduce Alan to the show, was the whole thing filmed in Cleveland? The whole movie?
Northeast Ohio.
Okay.
We went as far down south as a town that I grew up in called New Philadelphia.
Okay, I'm familiar.
Which, I mentioned earlier, the carousel that I grew up with, we wanted to get the real carousel on film. So we had a big thing there. 400 people from the town showed up to be extras. It was a pretty cool coming home sort of event for me. And then we all over, Lakewood, Middleburg Heights, Berea,
Medina,
Elyria, Beechwood, if I didn't say that, just all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I think I counted 6 different locations we used for Emily Kinney's apartment.
Oh wow! The one scene is actually, I think you guys filmed right did you guys do any filming in Fairview? Because I noticed toward the end there was a scene right at 220 in Lorraine, and that's probably about 5 minutes from my house. I passed that. Well, not exactly. If I go past the McDonald's and I'm too high and I forget where the McDonald's is at, I run past the intersection all the time. All the time.
Well, that the scene where she's walking away?
Yeah.
That's right in front of the deli.
Yeah. Okay, good deal. Well, we're also welcoming Mr. Alan O'Reilly to the show.
Hey.
He played attorney Abe Berkman. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, thank you, Joe.
Now, I love your character. The whole the shock scene of you coming in the movie really sets the scene here. We actually got the scene that I really like is actually the one Carmen gave to me. So we're going to share another clip here. So bear with me and we'll load this bad boy up here. Give me a second.
When was the last time you saw this, Alan?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I've seen it unless it's in the teasers. Yeah,
this might be. I mean, if not top 5, this is definitely top 5, if not my favorite scene in the whole movie. This is really fucking good. Hold on.
Blast to film too.
Ah,
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Hopefully, I didn't cut it off. Bear with me here. This is what you do when you don't got a live producer. Oh, here we go. Ellen movie clip. All right, share screen.
I am past my bedtime. You see?
All right,
there we go.
All right, here we go.
You Dombrowski?
Yeah.
Cheryl, would you get me the Huffnagel file? For Christ's sake, get this water. He looks like shit. Come on back. Come on. Thanks, Cheryl. Not bad, huh?
Sorry.
Cheryl, not bad looking.
I guess not.
Would you believe she posed for Playboy in the 70s? 79, I think. Maybe 78. Anyway, she was a looker in her day.
No, I'm sure she was.
No, just the shock scene from that whole
Yeah.
that was just so amazing. It set the character. It just set it up perfect to where the movie was just going in the dark spot that I just love, man.
Yeah, dark spot is right. Yeah.
Now in that role, did Carmen and Eric make you do your hair like that, or did you just go in like that normally, or what happened with it?
Hey, I got crazy hair. You can't tell right now, but you know, sometimes it just kind of does what it wants to do. And I think, you know, I think part of it was coming in like I did. I was preoccupied before Casey came into my office with my daily ritual, as it were. And I think my hair got a little tousled, and it just stayed that way. And I guess it sort of worked for the whole scene.
Yeah, I think all of that was in the script.
Yeah.
Shirt untucked.
Yeah.
It's hair messed up. I think the script actually says, and he's tucking in his shirt for
Yeah.
some reason.
Yeah, for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah. The part that I like, I mean, obviously I love Alan's performance is amazing, but the little addition at the very end where he's looking down the hallway to make sure nobody's going to walk in on him and Casey, or that nobody saw him take Casey into that room, is just sort of a harbinger of what's going to happen in that room.
Right.
It's so fun.
That
Cool.
was a last minute note that I gave to Alan.
Yeah.
Like I mean, we had probably already filmed it without it, I think. And then we said, hey, why don't you just do this? Just look both ways like you're concerned or whatever, and just make sure nobody's coming. And I don't even really know what I meant by it. I just knew it would look funny, and it would just add to the absurdity of everything. And again, I mean, they say directing is 90% casting, and I think if anybody wants to call me a good director, it's because I think I just know when people get it, and I just feel like I feel like all the actors, at least on this project, I felt we were always right here, you know?
Yeah.
There was never like any argument of like, I don't remember any conflicts with any actors about saying like motivation or what we should do here. Or if I gave them a note, they were like, let's do that. That's, you know, or if they gave me a note, I'm usually like, yeah, let's do that. You know, at least let's try it. And if it doesn't make it on the cutting room floor, but I love when an actor says, I have an idea, or they pull you aside. I love, you know, a scene is going to be awesome when an actor pulls you aside and says, I have some thoughts. I just love that. That's like, I'm getting chills right now, like wanting to get back on the set and have an actor pull me aside and go, what if we did this?
Mhm.
Like, yes.
Now, Alan, is your character based on any real life attorneys that may or may not be involved in the construction of the movie, or what?
He's sort of a amalgamation of you know, your typical ambulance chaser, the kind of guy you'd see at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep, or you're drunk and you're coming home and you're watching TV, and this lawyer comes on, and he's not quite as slick as some of those guys, but he's pretty slick in his way. So you know, there's a lot of different attorneys. I've actually played quite a few attorneys, but you know, I think Eric and Carmen, I mean, in the audition, I remember I did him very straight and very you know, sort of tight. And then I don't know, I think Eric said just loosen him up, have more fun with it. And all of a sudden, this whole New York schlocky sort of guy came out, and I just sort of went with that and got hired with that approach. And so it sort of evolved as we went. And then as I dug deeper into the script, you know, all of the shall we say sophomoric tactics that he uses on Casey and has a lot of fun at his expense, and that all just sort of evolved. It was very fresh, shall we say, because it all sort of happened in the shoot. I didn't really have a whole lot of premeditation actory stuff going in. I wanted to be very loose going in.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's funny that Alan says that because that's the way I remember it too. We had a dozen people come in to read for that, and you know, when they saw attorney on the paper, they all wanted to be this, you know, real straight-laced professional kind of attorney, and you know, we tried each time to tell them, you know, we'd like for you to kind of be this other person, and everybody tried, and they just always fell short, except when Alan came in and he did it and he got it right away. After he walked out of the room, Eric and I looked at each other and we said, "We have our Abe." I mean, it was
I
amazing.
think if I recall, though, we did make Alan do another audition, a video audition.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I think I probably gave you an inappropriate note of "be more Jewish." I think I actually said, "Be more Jewish."
Yeah, no, I remember that, and I think it was down between. Actually, I know the guy's a dear friend of mine. It was down between the two of us, and my poor son had to videotape me over at the Cleveland Playhouse classrooms, and we had a hell of a time, literally about 3 hours with all the technical glitches to get that second tape done, because I knew that this is it. This is the final callback, so to speak. But, we got it in, and yes, I did keep that note in my mind there as I went along, which sort of gave me a nice, area and freedom with that to play around with. So thank you.
Yeah.
No, John or Alan, are you from You're from Cleveland?
I'm originally from Philly. I'm sort of a well-traveled person. I was born in Philly and then lived in Arizona for a while, went to college out there, and then spent 30 years in Atlanta, which is sort of where I made my bones in theater and then in film. And then I was hired at the Cleveland Playhouse, where I worked for 3 years and did a number of films in Cleveland, most importantly, Enormity of Life. And I mean that, absolutely. And then I left Cleveland, and now I'm with another theater that's actually in Sag Harbor, New York, but I'm an actor first, and while I'm here, I'm always pursuing opportunities and self-taping for every possible film and television show that comes my way.
Okay, now did you know Carmen and Eric before any of this, or did just right after?
I didn't know Carmen. I knew Eric by reputation because of Made in Cleveland, and certainly from his studio, but I'd never met him until the actual audition.
Okay.
Yeah.
What other projects prior to this, I mean, besides the theater stuff? Have you been anything?
Yeah. A couple things I did. One thing I did in Cleveland, which is a lot of fun, called The Assassin's Code, which was another film that had another title at one time, and then it became The Assassin's Code, and I played a really, again, sort of scuzzy detective in that. Very much on the payroll of the mafia. And my great claim to fame in that was being killed by Peter Stromar. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but you recognize the guy. He's the villain in every video game and most every film. But I sort of threw him. His big claim to fame was being in Fargo, the guy with the white hair in Fargo, that dude. So I said to him, I said, I know everybody gives you compliments about Fargo, but I said, my favorite role of yours is Dancer in the Dark, a Bjork film. And it totally blew him away that I would remember that. But he was a cool guy. And a couple of things in Cleveland, a lot in Atlanta, TV, Sleepy Hollow I was on, and a thing that I shot in Virginia that I still get residuals from, Turn, Washington Spies. And just a couple months ago now, I actually went to New Orleans and shot a thing called the Wicked Trilogy, not to be confused with the musical by the same name that's also in production, I think. But this is for Passion Flicks. I swear it's not soft porn. It just sounds like soft porn, but it's called Passion Flicks, and it's a great thing. They take romance novels and turn them into teleplays and film them all over the world. And the one I did was in New Orleans, and I play a Scottish doctor, and unfortunately I got killed in a trilogy. Not what you want to do, but I had no say in the matter.
Do you get to use a Scottish brogue?
I do. I'm always getting cast with accents, Carmen. It's sort of my thing. Yeah. I'm not complaining, you know.
That's I
have to ask you the same question I asked Deb. Do you swear like the character? Are you anything like the character in the movie at all, or is it just totally a performance?
God, I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not. My wife would divorce me right now after 34 years. But the thing is, I can do schlock. I know these guys from Philly, growing up in Philly, guys like that in my neighborhood, and I can certainly channel them. And I went to private school, so what can I say? For like 12 years, so some of the sophomoric behavior and innuendo and just crassness of Abe that comes out in that first scene. I'm pulling on some of my all boys school experiences from the mid 70s. What can I say?
Now, what years did you guys film this movie?
This was mainly
2018,
mainly
2019.
2018. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Now I
were
want to
thinking
also,
about
not to give too much away about Alan's character, but a theme that's always been a favorite of mine in film is the theme of redemption. And without giving too much away, as awful or inappropriate, I should say, is Abe's character is in the film, he does have a beautiful redemption moment at the end of the film that is probably the most emotional moment of the film. And I remember seeing the first cut and seeing Alan play that character in a completely different way, in a very comforting way. And I remember him bringing literal tears to my eyes as I was watching that scene. So as bad as Abe is, I will say, without giving too much away, he does get to redeem himself.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
And it's in a very beautiful way, I think.
And there's one thing I just want to piggyback on that, because not being a filmmaker, not being somebody who's been a part of a process like this before, and the filming of that scene was pretty early on in the movie, in the filming process, I should say. It was really trippy for me to watch, to be in the room and watch how Alan sort of, had his mannerisms and acted with the character. But then to see it on the little TV screen that's there, I don't know. It was just a sort of a transcendent moment, because it was just as good as he was in person when it was on the camera and on the screen. It just took it to another level, and I was blown away by it. So I just wanted to let you know that, Alan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's a testament too to our cinematographer Sage O'Brien,
Brilliant.
who knew how to frame Alan and framed him with that beautiful painting behind him.
Right. Right.
That everybody talks about. But
yes.
And also for people who don't know, how filming sometimes goes, we only had Alan for the day.
Right.
So he had to play both scenes back to back. So bad attorney, good attorney, with maybe lunch in between.
Yeah.
But I believe, and you had told me that Emily was very, very, she got that scene and just kind of, I don't want to say guided you through it, because you're a professional actor, you know what you mean, but like you guys were there and you knew what to do. And there were even some moments where you said, I've got some ideas for what I can do with my hands. And she was like, no, I gotta get to this emotional place. I know how I'm going to get there. So just come with me. Yeah. And you just went on the journey with her.
Yeah.
Which is such a beautiful thing.
I think we just did it in one take.
Yeah. Well, she got to cry.
Yeah.
She cries in the scene. And I don't know. I think there's no greater gift that an actor can give to the director than to cry for them.
Yeah.
And for her to go to that place she had to get to. And I will say this, there's never in the history of cinema, been a more perfectly timed tear. If you're reading along with the script as you watch the movie and it says a tear trickles down her face, I guarantee it'll trickle down at the exact moment you read it in the script. I was like, how did she do that? Like, and you just want to go up and hug him and say, thank you for doing that. Thank you for going to that place. Because I know the rest of the day for you, or at least the next hour, is going to be you trying to get out of that space, that place again, because you went there. And she had to do that a couple times for us.
Yeah.
But it was just beautiful to see Alan and Emily, who met that on set that day connect and nail it in such a strong and powerful way.
Yeah,
I'll say for Emily, which is sort of unprecedented for star people, that she ran lines prior to that, and that's unusual in my experience. And I could tell she was utilizing that opportunity to prep for that scene. I mean, not just run lines to make sure that we have the lines right, but to really prepare. And you'll see. The directors have seen what the result is, but the world will see, and it's really remarkable.
Yeah.
So you were only there for one day, Alan. Now, Deb, how long were you in the shooting process involved for? How long
It was a full day, 10 to 10. I mean, maybe not even that long, not even 12 hours, maybe, but it was a full day. We were fed. It was a lovely set, wonderful people, very convivial atmosphere, everybody collaborating. It was very nice.
That was one of my favorite sets.
Yeah.
Not only because we envisioned that set so heavily and knew what we wanted, and it was pretty close to what we thought we wanted, but also I remember outside, because it was a real attorney's office, but it was in this old 100-year-old Victorian home in Lakewood that was turned into an attorney's office. But I remember outside in the lawn, they had set up craft services and everything. And it was a beautiful day out, and everybody, when they weren't filming, was sitting outside with each other, commingling, eating, drinking, having, great conversations, and then go in and go to work. I remember walking out a couple times to maybe grab a Coke or something out of the cooler, and just seeing like everybody was so happy. And it was just, I was like, all right, I think we've hit our stride. I think we're treating everybody well. I think everybody's having a good time in the process. So that sticks out in my memory as like a really great day of filming.
Yeah.
Okay, now Deb, how long were you on the set for yourself? I mean, you were in obviously many more scenes than Ellen was. How throughout the whole process of filming, how long were you there for?
Well, I helped every single day, so I was helping out producing every day that we filmed. But Missy, she had scenes 2 days, and then we did some pickup at the hospital another time a few weeks later. So Eric, is that about right? 3 days for Missy, I think.
Yeah, I think 3 days, but I don't believe you missed a single day of filming.
Oh, God.
Other than when we did the pickups in a year later.
Yeah.
When we reshot some scenes after getting a lot of feedback from distributors and people like that. Like, this is as you know, this is a very unique film in its tone. We go from comedy to tragedy to comedy to tragedy. And to Shoreline's credit, that's our distributor, a lot of distributors were afraid of this film because they didn't know how to sell it. They didn't know how to market it. Not to date myself too much, but like if this were at Blockbuster, what wall would it go on? Does it go in comedy? Does it go in drama? And so I think that that's a testament to our distributor. But so we had to reshoot a couple scenes a year to the day that we wrapped the first time.
Yeah.
We went back, and thank God one of our actors didn't change their hair because we were out of budget to go full on hair and makeup, person for a wig that would match her old hair or whatever. So that was the great Anne McAvoy, who's an amazing, mostly known for stage. And she came in and she gave life to Casey's mom, Dorothy, who we all affectionately referred to as Dorothy all the time, as if she was and the funny thing is about Dorothy, and I go on these tangents, but for the first 5 years that we knew we were making this movie, she didn't have a line in the movie, but she was a character that we all knew, and we knew she was this central character and had no lines in the movie.
Yeah.
We knew she was maybe one of the most important characters in the film, and she just brought such life to that character with no words. I think everybody, when you watch that movie, you know who Dorothy is.
That was a funny role to cast too, because we had these women come in, and we didn't have a script for them to read. We didn't have anything. We're like, we're really looking for you to just be this person. And I think Eric did some improv exercises with some of the actresses, but it was really like the look that Anne McAvoy brings, and that she's able to, at one point she's looking out the window in the hospital, and that look that she gives is, I mean, you know that person. Eric's 100% right. You know that person.
She, there's a moment where she goes from lucid back to sort of where we lose her. And I remember several times watching it in the editing room with different people in the room. And every time they see her kind of go from that lucid state to every time somebody in the room went and she's gone, and I was like, oh, that's right. She is. She was there for a moment and Casey got to do his thing and then she was gone. So
now the thing in Cleveland, obviously we talked about the locations you filmed. Now, how, Deb, you talked about a lot of this, but how did you guys get them to shut down the streets? How does one go about that? Like with, some streets, it's obviously blocked off. Like if I was to walk down Lorraine, I'd be in the middle of your shot. So obviously you need coordination with like law enforcement. How does that even work?
My dad stands at the corner with a bat.
We only blocked off one street, right? The whole time.
I
think that's right.
At the school, right?
Yep.
So
and that was a Sunday, right? Or a Saturday.
There was a scene we blocked off about a quarter-mile block between Detroit Avenue in Lakewood and Clifton Boulevard. And we blocked off both ends of the street because we were filming outside of the school. And we had kids on the set, so we needed to make sure it was safe. I think it was the only time we had to block off the streets.
And we got permission from the city.
We got a permit.
Yeah.
I think I won't go as far as to call him a friend. I know somebody on Cleveland Council. Tristan Rader is his name. He's on the Lakewood City Council, and he's a big fan of the process and everything. And I think I messaged him through Facebook and said, hey man, can you push a permit through for us? And I think he called the mayor's office and made a couple calls and they pushed it through. I think we had the permit the next day. So shout out to Tristan, who's always answers his phone when I call him, and knew that this was happening and helped hold that string for us.
No, I don't want to give anything away, but I think we caused a bigger stir when we set something up in somebody's backyard.
Oh, yes.
That was quite the stir.
Yeah, I think I got shielded from any of the drama from that, but I do recall that there was some drama.
There was definitely drama. Don't worry, the attorney on the project took care of it all. And this time I'm not talking about Alan.
We had to do some major construction in somebody's backyard in a residential neighborhood.
And luckily, the person whose backyard it was just happened to be my best friend, Dave Gazowski. So that at least made it a little easier.
Shouts out to the Gazowskis. That's a great family out there.
Yeah,
great
Andy and Dave and Eddie. Yep, all three.
Andy and Dave. If you ever get the chance to meet Andy, shake his hand. It's an honorable gentleman and a power. Now we got to talk about the star power in this movie. Now, Breckin Meyer is one of my favorites of all time. He Road Trip is if you never watched Road Trip, I know you guys aren't involved in Road Trip, but watch that movie. That's freaking awesome, man. How do you get someone like this to come out? Do you just give it to him? Was there auditions? Explain the process of getting somebody like Breckin Meyer on this.
I'll take it because it starts like 6 years ago. So a mutual friend, I have Abby Elliott, who is a cast member on Saturday Night Live, daughter of the incredibly famous and incredibly hilarious Chris Elliott from, million.
Most recently, Schitt's Creek.
And Cabin Boy and There's Something About Mary. So she's a mutual friend that I met when I did Made in Cleveland. I met Busy Phillips and Gillian Jacobs and these people who worked on Community and Arrested Development, and that's kind of how Abby came to be a mutual friend. So when the script was done, I thought Abby would be great for the role of Jess. So I asked her if she if I could send the script to her agent, and she said absolutely. And they loved the script over at Paradigm, which is her agency, and she signed on to do it. And for about 2 years or so, our character of Jess was cast with Abby Elliott. So as the process continued to go, Abby started mentioning people that she wanted to work with in the role of Casey. And she had mentioned a bunch of names that are very well known. I won't mention them all, but she mentioned a bunch of very well-known actors that she knew or had wanted to work with. And then Paradigm said, why don't you let us put some more of our talent around Abby? So a lot of names were thrown around. I think James Vanderbeek, Stephen Yeun from The Walking Dead,
Adam Pally,
a bunch of names were talked about, and Breckin Meyer is where we settled. Now I won't say settled.
No,
it's where we ended, because Breckin was my absolute number one choice for this role, and then for amazingly, Giselle Eisenberg was available. I mean, this is one of the most sought after crowd actors in Hollywood. And funny thing is, 2 or 3 years before, I jokingly said, wouldn't it be cool if we could get Giselle Eisenberg? And then two years later, we had Giselle Eisenberg. Now, about a month before filming, Abby had to drop out of the film. And there were a couple names Paradigm threw at us. Emily Kinney was one of them. And then there was another actress who was on a show called Vice Principals. And I was a huge Walking Dead fan, a huge Emily Kinney fan. And I remember Carmen and our casting director saying, we should really look at both of them closely. And I remember saying, I don't veto a lot, but I'm vetoing right now. It's Emily. And I fought for that. And that's how we ended up with it. We had a star from Saturday Night Live validate us and say, I want to do this movie. And then her agency surrounded us with more talent. And obviously they loved the script too. I mean, we had a lot of people. I think Nicholas, I'm going to butcher his name, Nicholas Tortorella, he's now on Fear the Walking Dead. He's on a show called Younger.
He was on The Following.
For it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we sent it to a couple other actors that I really liked. I'm losing the guys. Josh Radnor from How I Met Your Mother, star of that show. So we had a lot of people looking at it. Matt Jones, who you would know as Badger from Breaking Bad. So we had a lot of people looking at this, but that's how we got it. I mean, a lot of people ask me that question, especially in Cleveland, when there's not a lot of indie films being made with, A-listers and people who are currently on top television shows. But I built a lot of relationships over the last 15 years with people who are way, way, way more well-known than I am. And I think at the end of the day, no matter how big a star you are, you're still that theater nerd from high school, and you just want good work. And if the script is good, they almost don't care who the writer or the director is. They care a little bit. You have to prove to them that you're worthy and that you're not going to screw it up. But if the script is good, you can have a conversation.
And I will say, we did have a lot of different people that we talked about for Casey, and Breckin's name kept coming back up, and we decided, this is our guy, and we went with him. And I remember the very first day of filming was in a diner over on Lorraine, actually, and Breckin walks in that door and does that first scene, and Eric says cut, and I'm standing next to him, and we both had, I had goosebumps because I was like, that's absolutely Casey. That is 100% the guy that we wrote, and there was no question that we made the perfect choice in having him there.
Outstanding. I didn't win. Okay, now, Mr. John, what's your last name, sir? I can't. I got it. Okay, from the thing. What? Say your last name.
Kalman, Kalman.
John Kalman. How are you today, my friend?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Now, Carmen tells me you did the musical score for the movie.
I did. There's a few of my songs in there, but mostly I've just known Carmen since the 80s.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. John, I met in 89, maybe 88.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Deb wasn't even born yet.
Yeah. And John had released. John has been in a few great local Cleveland bands, Rue and the Founding Fathers, who I got to see perform. But then he had released his own solo album a few years. Was it 2017, 2016, John?
A few years before that. It's been a minute. But
Has it been?
recent,
All right. Yeah. And there were just a few songs on there that I just thought were amazing. I think the whole album is amazing. It's called A Drive Awake, and if you can get it, it's awesome. But there were two songs in particular that I really liked and I thought would be a good tone for this film. And I approached John and I said, hey, we'd like to put your songs in the movie. And I gave him, I think I gave you like an unfinished copy of the film just to show you like the tone of the movie and everything, didn't I? Like it didn't even have sound effects or anything in it.
No, it was very rough. I don't know even how much of it is the same in the final version, but yeah, it was a very rough cut early on.
Yeah, and I was just really happy that an artist as talented as John, one, continues to be my friend 35 years later, and two, was gracious enough to let us use his music. So.
Well, I thought the movie's beautiful. The story's awesome. The humor's great. The dark parts are very dark, but with meaning. So it's not dark for the sake of dark or anything. But yeah, it's a beautiful story.
And if any of you have ever been to the Grog Shop, I'm sure you recognize John because he's always there playing and working when they're open, at least.
Yeah,
John, you probably know my brother Tony Varell.
I do know your brother, actually.
Okay, that's a small airfield. Good deal.
Yeah, Cleveland.
Okay, yeah, Cleveland. In Cleveland, if for those of you watching from around the world and not in Ohio, and at least Cleveland, pretty much, if you've been in Cleveland, you're over 40. You know everybody in Cleveland, or at least you know somebody who knows somebody in Cleveland, because it's not as big as people think. It's not like New York. Yeah. We're like 1/10 the size of New York, man. It's a small area.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Carmen was saying you can. Is there a music we can play, or how was that going to work, Carmen? I totally forgot.
Well, I mean, I thought if John's willing to play one of the two songs that he put in our film for us, I'd let him be the one to choose.
I definitely will. I feel like this is a fun talk so far, and I might just drag it down to the ground, but I'm willing to.
No, absolutely. We'd love to hear. I don't know. I'll let you choose which one. I think both of them are awesome.
Well, I'll do the memorial statue one because
you don't have a violinist.
Yeah, that's actually the reason why. COVID, no violinist. So, but yeah, I'll do one real quick and then I'll get out of your hair. You guys can continue having your fun. But yeah, this is called Memorial Statue. Here we go. Never left a friend on the saddle, though I never had a chance. I never ever lied to God, my pride never stowing in my stance. Like a statue carved out of stone, triumphant but always alone. Standing guard
boulevard, silently watching you. Like a statue, calm down, go, triumphant, but always alone. Standing guard on the boulevard, silently watching you.
There's a little one of that there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Sorry for muting everybody there. I just wanted to let it play. Nice song. Nice. I must admit, man, I really the way the songs came in on the movie when I was watching the screener there, it was perfectly done because like it's not overly saturated with music. Like some movies, like every time you turn, there's another sad song. But in this movie, man, only the very integral scenes in the movie did the songs come on, and every single note pops when it's on the screen. I really dug your performance, man. It really added to it. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
My a big influence of mine is the movie Garden State, the Zach Braff, Natalie Portman movie, and I always loved the way they used music in that movie. So I was very cognizant of that in the music choices and where the music would come in here, and I could see that song from John in a Zach Braff movie or something. And we have some other really big pieces in there. By Light We Loom is an Ohio band, and they actually did an original song for us. And we went in the studio and recorded it. And I got to kind of be a part of that process, which was cool because I'm not a musician, but to be able to have a little bit of that, be a little bit of a part of that process. And then, of course, we have a big song by a band called Codaline, which is a very big European band, I believe. So music was always at the top of my thought process, and I think John's music just fit right in to the tone of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. And in addition to Memorial Statue, which is the song that John just played, the other one that's in the movie is Blood Orange Sky. And I remember telling Eric, I went to John's album release party. It was at that what was that? An old warehouse on the west side, John?
Yeah, it's the old the Hallmark building.
Oh yeah. On
78th Street, the 78th Street Studios.
And I remember I walked out of there after watching you play Blood Orange Sky, and I sent Eric a text that said, we got to have this song in the movie, because we were in the process of writing and figuring out what songs we might use. And I was really, really happy to be able to get that one in.
It was a Survival Kit was the name of the gallery that it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, and then there's another song at the end of the movie that we paid a ridiculous amount of money to have. Honestly, the song was so important that the movie was delayed almost a year because we needed to make sure we could afford to buy the song. And that's how important it is. And that plays with Alan's big moment in the film. And it really amplifies the emotion of the scene that Alan is in. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say the movie was probably delayed a year of release while we tried to secure the rights to that song. That song was that integral to the movie. So
absolutely. And it only, ultimately it cost me my left kidney, but I still have the right one, and I can still enjoy a cocktail or two, so everything will be fine.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. All right, so I got some obscure stuff that I want to get into about the movie. If Deb and Alan, if you guys want to stick around too, that's fine. If you want to dip, I know it's a little bit late out there. If you want to stick around, John too as well, you can stick around for all this. No pressure here. But now in the movie itself, in the verbal script, I noticed that the word Cleveland or Ohio wasn't mentioned once. Now was the movie supposed to be set in Cleveland, or was that just supposed to be a generic Ohio town, like where you grew up in New Philly, or what's the deal there?
It's really Midwest. It's just the Midwest. Emily Kinney often says to me that she feels like I capture the essence of the Midwest in my writing, and that's really all it was. It's not. I mean, other than the shirt that Breckin is wearing, that I'm actually wearing today.
The same shirt?
Not his shirt.
Oh,
no,
okay,
no.
good.
Other than the fact that he was wearing that, we don't say Cleveland. But I guess you could make that assumption based on the fact that he's wearing a shirt, unless he's one of those, rockers that are wearing it ironically. It's not mentioned. That's very astute of you to catch that, because we mentioned that over and over during the filming, that I do not want anybody to know where this is even supposed to be. So that was a conscious effort on our part.
Okay, good deal. Now all the stuff in the movie, you guys were talking about, getting a lot of concessions from businesses and whatnot. The scenes, we're not going to describe the big thing in the movie, but do you have to buy stuff like that, or just kind of use what's in the restaurant? And the one scene when they walk into the Casey's mom's house and everything's just shattered. I mean, is that how do you get stuff like that?
Sore subject.
No, we're past that. So that is also Dave Gazowski's house. That's the inside of Dave Gazowski's house. And if you know Dave's wife Jen at all, she is just so meticulous in how she keeps her home. And I remember I had to sit them down and say, we're going to come in and we're going to tear the shit out of your house. And they were fine with it.
Listen, I offered to buy her couch.
No, I know. It was so we ended up getting just, a whole bunch of junk from people's basements and just creating that hoarder scene.
In the script, it actually describes her home as a cardboard jungle. So the room was technically supposed to be a lot of boxes stacked to the ceiling,
and newspapers and magazines,
and that didn't get conveyed properly to our set design team, and they just started dumping all the boxes out, which literally had garbage in it.
Yeah,
literally was crap from people's attics and basements, stuff they were going to throw away, that we literally had people go and with a van and pick it up and go into people's attics and take stuff out of there. But I do remember when Deb came to me and said, "Hey, the living room is ready. Do you want to come look at it?" And I walked in and I had two opposite reactions. One, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And two, I am so dead. I am so dead when Carmen walks in here. And it was a contentious day.
Yeah.
But
it's all good.
But not to sound like in a conceited way, but let's just say this movie is a huge hit. I would say the shot of Breckin and Emily standing inside, surrounded by the garbage, would be what I would call the iconic shot of the movie. To see her beauty. I mean, they're both very beautiful people, but just to see them surrounded by, and that's real garbage. It's such a beautiful shot of them looking so amazing, surrounded by such chaos and garbage. That, I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't have wanted that shot to look any other way, even though it's not what I was envisioning before I walked in there. It's absolutely what it should have looked like.
Yeah.
Now, in Brecklin's apartment, when he first going there, there's a Harold and Maude poster and another movie poster. I can't remember. Is that Carmen's idea? Whose idea was that?
The other poster is 12th Night, the Shakespearean play, and I'll let Eric describe all of that.
Yeah, so Harold and Maude was probably the first inspiration for me even starting this project. So the Harold and Maude poster is really just an Easter egg, an homage to the film. Also, without giving too much away, it's a little bit of foreshadowing. And then 12th Night, in the script, he talks about being in that play. So that poster of 12th Night was actually done by our production team. And if you really look at it, it actually has Casey's high school at the bottom and the date of the play. So it's supposed to be the production poster from the play that he's actually in when he's talking to Emily about being in that play. So that was something we had made up. And if you really look at detail, it has his high school and the date. So it would have been like in the 90s. And then the Harold and Maude was a bit of foreshadowing, a little Easter egg we threw in there.
I think we're losing Deb.
All right, yeah. Deb, I think your phone's gone.
She was texting me that her phone was done.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think she was causing the issues too. So we'll
Bye, Deb.
Bye, Deb.
Yeah, we love you, Deb. But we'll holler at you later. Now, Carmen, there's some old school stuff in here, man. Toward one of the movie scenes, I would say maybe 1:30 into the movie, there's a scene with the newspaper boy throwing newspapers off of a bicycle at various houses. I mean, now, Erica, you can maybe even touch on this one. Now, was that just written in for nostalgia's sake? I mean, I had a newspaper out in 1987 for the Plain Dealer going up a couple of years, and I mean, I haven't had a physical newspaper delivered to the house in 20 years. Well, explain the newspaper thing.
So it wasn't in the script, and that actor who played the paper boy is actually a former student of mine. I teach film and acting as well, and he's a former student of mine. His name is Gus Premier, and he's attended my school that I run for kids to learn about filmmaking, and that was his very first paid role as an actor. We shot that in about 2 hours or so. He had to ride that bike up and down that street like 30 times because we have a drone shot getting that shot. And that was really because there's this turning point in the movie right before we see that, or in the middle of that, right? It's a major paradigm shift in the film where we kind of go from a lot of like hopelessness and anxiety to like hope. And it's really, I think, meant to be very, you caught it, nailed it on the head, looking to be very nostalgic and like this moment of like hope and peace. And also, if you remember, Emily talks a lot in the film about, the world becoming this place where it's not suitable for kids anymore, right? And so right at that moment, Giselle's character, Jess or Jules, has a moment of clarity as well, where maybe she's reclaimed a little bit of her youth and innocence back. And so that paper boy is there to sort of symbolize that as well. So it's a moment of hope and a moment of like reclaiming youth and nostalgia, I guess.
And one of our producers happened to come with a drone, and we were like, "Ooh, can we use that?"
Wow.
Nice. Now the gold Camry that was featured, I think it's Jess's car in the movie when Casey goes and picks up Emily Kinney's character from the school. Whose car is that, Carmen? Is that Gazowski's car? Whose Camry is that?
No, that was Eric, somebody that Eric knows.
It's my
right?
mother-in-law's car.
Mother-in-law, yeah.
She doesn't have it anymore. It died, and it barely ran for the shoot. It had no air conditioning, and the windows didn't go up or down. So I just remember putting Breckin, and every time Breckin and Emily and Giselle got into that car, just apologizing and saying, we'll get you out as soon as we can. And they were troopers about it, absolute professionals about it. But yeah, that was my mother-in-law's car. And I had to drive it one day to set for some reason. And I had to drive it all the way out to Medina. And that was probably the closest to thinking I was going to die as I've ever been in my life, because every bump on the road, I think the bearings were shot. So every bump on the road, the car would shimmy about 3 feet to the left if I hit it. And I was just driving out to Medina to the highway scene that we did, and just thinking, this might be my last day on Earth.
And what you don't know, Joe, and probably most of the people listening, is most of the times the actors don't actually drive the vehicles for a lot of, for insurance reasons, safety reasons. So when the vehicles are on the road and you see these driving scenes, it's actually my dad who's got a pickup truck who's pulling a trailer, and the truck or the car is sitting on a trailer, and my dad is just zipping up and down Route 53 in Medina or wherever it was at in Medina, and then over by the Gazowski house, he's zipping up and down the street, just pulling this car all day.
We did have to use it and actually drive it for some of those scenes on the highway when they see the road sign towards the end.
Yeah.
They're on the road trip. But those were actually not Breckin and Emily driving the car in the car. Those were
body doubles.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the original title of the movie, how do you pronounce that, Carmen? What?
The original title is Anhedonia,
Okay.
and it's a psychological condition where a person experiences no joy. So you would call the person anhedonic. Joe, you might be familiar with the term called hedonism, where somebody is all about pleasure. And I kid Joe because I've known Joe for 30 years. But anhedonia or anhedonic is the opposite of that. Instead of somebody who experiences immense pleasure from anything, this is a person who experiences no pleasure, no matter what. Job, love, money, it doesn't matter.
Drugs, any of that.
Yeah.
That's actually, now that I know that and watched the movie, that's pretty fucking deep right there, actually. That's really cool.
It was a reluctant title change.
We fought.
Our distributor felt that it would not perform well overseas with that title.
Huh.
And that night that we were, honestly, we made a little indie film for less than $1 million. So we are thrilled that a company, a major distributor in Los Angeles wants our film. So we're kind of open, flexible. And I think I went through that night, and I basically, because I'm a visual person, I went back in because I design all the movie posters and stuff. I went back into the movie poster and I changed the title, and we came up with maybe 10 to 12 alternate titles, and I sent everybody all 12 posters with the different titles on it, so they could not only hear it but see how it looked visually on the poster. Did it look like an indie film that that Sundance was going to want or something like that? And the Enormity of Life was one, I think, and there was some song lyric stuff from the By Light We Loom song. There were some things we just found lines from the movie and played with it. I think You Forgetting Me was one that I really liked. But we settled on the Enormity of Life because I think Shoreline could live with it. I think our sort of compromise was, we said we'll change it, but we get final veto on what that change is.
Yep.
So we'll send you 3. We sent them 3 and said we're okay with any one of these 3. And they went with that one. So
now, was the line? I know I'm not going to give away what was in the movie, but I noticed the word enormity was mentioned later. Was that already in the script, or did you add that after we got the? Okay, it was already in there.
That was already in the script.
And that's sort of where this version of the title comes from, because the film was done. Everything was complete when we were trying to market it as Anhedonia.
Even the reshoots had been done.
Yeah, everything was done.
The original film had the definition of Anhedonia on a black title card at the beginning of the film, like the actual dictionary definition.
Yeah,
right.
Noun, and then the phonetic spelling, and
Okay. Yes, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I love the backstory behind Anhedonia. But man, I think the title. I think it's a good title that you guys came up with and settled on. I really think that it grasps everything in terms of the enormity of the character of Breckin Meyer and how he does deal with life and just everything. You know, I mean, I really dug that.
We got we got mostly positive feedback from the name change. I think.
Okay. No, how long from start to finish did it take you guys to film this whole thing?
Well, the main filming was 18 days of solid straight through filming.
No days off.
No days off for
days.
18 straight days. And then we did another 2 or 3 days after the main 3 left of just little scenes. For example, the cameo that I'm in, where it's just, you know, outside of Dave Gazowski's house again. You know, that was on another day after the main actors left. And then we had
the exterior stuff at the hospital, the drone stuff. That was after we had the carousel stuff down in New Philadelphia, my hometown.
Yep. And then we filmed the newscaster
the highway.
Yep. There was a newscaster scene that ultimately got cut. But yeah, so there's probably another 8 or 10 days after that original 18. And then about a year later, we realized that the opening of the film wasn't coming across the way we wanted it to, and Eric and our cinematographer Sage did a great job and came up with a really ingenious way to sort of start the movie a little differently. And we went back in on exactly a year to the day from when we wrapped filming in 2018. On May 18th, 2019, we went back to University Hospital and we refilmed that entire beginning of the movie differently. And so that was
four reshoot days a year later. And you'll appreciate this, Joe, because you've picked up on so much, and your attention to detail, by the way, is phenomenal. At the end of the film, or near the end of the film, Jess's character goes back to her apartment to make that tuna casserole. And we see her in the kitchen dancing like a woman in love. And that is not Emily. That is a body double.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she looks exactly like her.
And so Eric and I joked about this because obviously, you know, it's not Emily. So we just need a body double, and we're only shooting her from behind. And the Harvey Weinstein situation was going on at the time. And Eric had to ask these girls to come in and turn around because we need to make sure.
No, I had to have them send all their photos like turned around. Like I only wanted to see the back of their hair with their hair in a ponytail. And the girl that we got was amazing, incredibly sweet girl. Not only was she sweet, but I remember when we wrapped that day, she was offering to help carry gear off the set, and we were like, no, absolutely not. But she was amazing. Looked exactly, her measurements are exact to Emily. Her hair looks exact. We had obviously the same wardrobe, so we put her in that, and she was amazing. And then there's the scene where Casey gets into the fight with Jess's boss, Randy, played by the amazing Bryant Carroll from TV's Boardwalk Empire and some other shows. We brought him back a year later because we weren't happy with the fight scene because we ran over that day. We went
till 3 a.m.
We ran over that day and we didn't get all the shots we needed, and we weren't happy with the cut of the fight. So the scene where we actually see Randy fall back and hit his head, like from the wide shot, was a year later. And Emily in that wide shot is the body double, and Breckin in the wide shot is me.
Oh, nice. Good deal.
And yeah, so that was really interesting to do. Luckily for us, Bryant kind of still had the scraggly beard going on. You know, as an actor, Alan, you'll know, whatever they need. If you need to shave it off, it's off. If you need to grow it out, it's out. But luckily for us, Bryant had been getting cast in a lot of roles where they needed the scraggly guy. So he came in, and we we probably broke a few rules because we
Don't say that. Don't say it. Don't. I will come through here and stand.
Yeah. But let's just say the scene where he falls is probably not as highly monitored as we wanted it to be from a standpoint. But
you're killing me.
But that was really fun to do too. And we went back to the exact same location, and got that shot again. We tried to match the lighting as much as everybody could remember what we did a year before. And it cut so seamlessly that it was fun, and I got to play Breckin in that scene, so that was exciting. My claim to fame, I guess, my Hitchcock moment.
Now, I don't want to give away the one part, but in the scene where Casey and Jess are on the bed, if you look at the TV, there's a old CRT TV and a regular Nintendo. All right. Whose Nintendo was that, Carmen?
That's
okay.
Yeah. The idea was that it was his old bedroom, and it was supposed to be the way he left it. So we filled it with a bunch of 80s and 90s nostalgia. You'll see some other things in there that are also like the books. If you actually look at the books, there's a lot of like I think like John Grisham books and things like that. And there's the poster from another play that he was in. So we the set design on that was pretty intentional. So the Nintendo and all that stuff, that was all and his baseball trophies. Those are actually my old Little League trophies.
Nice.
So that was fun doing the set design for that too.
Good deal. Now, what did you have any obstacles? What did the critics say when you showed them this film?
Oh, how can we do this? We've had a lot of really great responses to the film. There are certain aspects of it that I think can accurately be described as dark, and a lot of people are, like Eric said earlier, they're concerned about how those dark scenes fit into how you sell a movie, right? So if it's a comedy and we can put it in this category, then we can sell it one way. If it's a drama, we can put it in this category and we can sell it another way. But if you have a guy like Abe Berkman and a really heavy subject like, mental illness or gun violence, like, well, where do you put that and how do you mesh those two? And so those were the sorts of things that we were getting, sort of pushback and critique about. But at the same time, the script was accepted into the Beverly Hills Film Festival a couple years back for best original screenplay, and we didn't win. It was just an honor to be nominated. But and then we won an award at Indie Fest, a film festival that really, really liked the movie, and they gave us that's what it's essentially third place when you talk about all of the different awards that they gave out that year. So there's been a lot of positive to the film, but it's that balance. It's trying to strike that balance, and again how people in certain aspects want to pigeonhole it one way or another, and I just don't think you can do that with this film.
Yeah, I think if you look at the film, especially particularly Alan's first scene in the movie, look at what it's bookended by. I mean, I can't give away too much, but the scene right before it and the scene right after it are like a completely different movie in terms of tonality. Alan's scene is silly and funny and inappropriate at times, and the scene before, two scenes before it, are incredibly dark. And that was intentional because we were doing a film about mental illness. So we wanted it to be a little bit manic, right? And we wanted it to go up and down, up and down. And so, some of the suits, if you will, the suits in Hollywood, it doesn't fit into their box, right? It doesn't fit into it all the time. So that was an obstacle in selling it, but not so much in making it, because in making it, we stuck to our guns and did exactly what we said we were going to do. I feel like aside from the reshoots that we did, most of the movie is what we thought it was going to be.
Yep. And we really fought. Eric and I had a particular. Well, Eric had the vision, and I sort of went along with him because I agreed with him, and we really fought to keep a certain level of artistic integrity, I guess you would say. Early on, before we decided to film it ourselves, we'd considered, shopping the script, and we tried to sell it to have somebody else pay for it and produce it. And some of the feedback we got was, oh yeah, it's good, but you should change this part of it, or you should change that part of it. And we looked at each other and we talked about it a lot, and we said, you know what, we can't do that, because that's not how mental illness works. That's not how this sort of subject goes. So we both agreed, and we stuck to it, and we're really happy, and we're happy that a company like Shoreline has agreed and saw it the same way we did, and is willing to get behind it like they have been.
Okay. Now, Alan, would you work with these guys again on a future project?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'd love to come back to Cleveland to work with these guys, and I bet there will be more opportunities. I'm not saying for me, but there will definitely be more opportunities for this pairing right
I
here.
will tell you, behind closed doors, Alan's name has come up already on a project that I'm trying to get done. I'm working on trying to get a series put together, and Alan's name has already come up on a short list. So Alan doesn't even know that, so he's finding out right now that we've been talking about it.
Let's get on.
No, I'd work with Alan in a heartbeat. One of the great directing experiences I've ever had was having Alan on set, and just we didn't get to do rehearsals, because the cast, the main, people were spread out, and we didn't get to do a table read. That's so right. I think Alan and I met maybe 2 hours, 3 hours before filming. We had you come in early, and you and I just talked about the role, and I don't even think we read lines or anything. I just think we just talked about the character.
There was no time, because there was a wardrobe snafu. So I had to take Alan to go shopping, and we had to go get.
Somebody forgot to bring Alan's wardrobe to set. And we had to go out and find him wardrobe day of.
Yeah, we took care of it.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
It's perfect wardrobe, by the way.
It really was. It really was.
That actually leads into my next question. Carmen and Eric, do you guys have any, besides obviously this coming out, do you have any projects you're thinking about working on, and anything in development now, or what's up?
Yeah, like Eric said, we're working on a series that I don't know how much we can say. I'll let Eric talk about what it's.
We're working on a series that we're going to be shopping around to some of the streaming services. Your Netflix, your Hulu, your those. It's kind of a dark psychological series. We've got 8 episodes essentially written. I'll say it's probably closer to 5 written, and 3 that we know where it's going to go, and we haven't gotten there yet. And kind of a series Bible sort of half put together. We know exactly where the first series goes, and we've even started talking about season 2. And it's really exciting. I won't say too much in terms of big announcements because it's not official, but we do have a fairly big name sort of attached to it, both as an executive producer and as a star that we're excited about. And I'm really excited about the series. I'm working on it with one of our producers, Andrew Gordon, who he's one of our producers and one of our investors, and he's got a little cameo in the movie. He plays the doctor in the sort of chaotic emergency room scene. And he's a very talented actor who I've worked with in the past. And he's kind of joined on with our company, Anhedonia Pictures. And there's another young lady named Kinsley Finari, who is kind of helping me write a little bit to bring she's a talented writer in her own right, but also to bring a female perspective and a female voice to the project as well. I feel like, obviously, I write okay for female characters, but it's always nice to bring in somebody who can speak to that way. So, but we're really excited about it. We actually probably would have filmed a pilot for it in August, but COVID. Everybody got really skittish around June. I think is when everything really started to shut down, and SAG-AFTRA really started laying down the law, and you had to have your COVID compliance officer on set, and I think at the end of the day, I was really psyched to shoot this pilot, but at the end of the day, all I could think of was like, I also love making movies and making television, right? And I felt like if we shot in the middle of COVID with all the restrictions and all the tension and anxiety, that we would have walked away with a very unsatisfying experience. You know, we wouldn't have gotten the bonding that you get with actors. We wouldn't have gotten the joy of doing it. And so,
and we would have paid twice as much to do that.
And so ultimately we said, let's curb it. We're also working on it with Bryant Carroll, who I mentioned before, who plays Randy. And he's the one that really kind of talked me down and said, let's pull the plug and wait until it's safer. And it's actually a good thing that happened, because we kind of had time to sit back and look at what we had and reevaluated it. And once we brought on our executive producer / star, and they got a hold of it, they really had some ideas and some really great insight as well as to how to tie some of the episodes together a little bit better. And so we kind of did a complete rewrite, and I think the show is much more promising now and going in a much, much more exciting direction because of the time that we had off.
Okay. Yeah. Now these film festivals, that this kind of stuff you admit to. Carmen was talking about the Beverly Hills Film Festival. I remember the old Tower City Film Festival. I don't know if that's even around anymore, but like the bigger ones like Cannes and all that. Do you guys have any hope to get into those? How does that whole process work?
Yeah, so when we got on with Shoreline back at the end of 2019, their plan was to really put us into a lot of festivals in 2020 and really get this film out there and go for a theatrical release and things like that. And then COVID hit, right? So
everything shut down.
Every festival was shut down. There was no outlet for us to do that with this film for 2020. And now as we began 2021, we began to look and say, what are we doing here? Do we want to still try for the festival route and take another year and really sort of keep the film out of the public consumption for another year while we try for festivals and stuff? And I think we just agreed that it might be better to get it out there where people can see it and try to try to obviously make the money back for our investors and things like that, but really just try to get people to see this film, because we think we really have something special, and to put it on hold for another year, I think would have just been too far removed from the whole process to really strike a chord with the audiences.
When it comes to festivals too, I think I was a bit naive. My thinking was, our movie is great. It's going to get into Sundance. It's going to get into South by. It's going to get into Toronto. It's got Breckin Meyer. It's got Emily Kinney. It's got Giselle Eisenberg. We're a lock, right? And the naivete that I had was that festivals are choosing films based on how good they are. And that's just not the case. There was another film that was shot around the same time that we filmed ours that got into South by. And it wasn't even, they hadn't even finished the film yet. It was still being edited. I knew that because I knew the editor, and so my mistake was, I went back and looked at the publicity of that film to learn, how did they get into South by when their film isn't even done? We submitted to South by and we didn't get in. And and this is just a real wake-up call for any independent filmmaker, is that they had a publicist a year before they started filming that was generating buzz about this film. We did not. We were saying we got to put all our money and our resources into making this movie. And we didn't hire a publicist until the film was cut and was edited. So if I had to go back and do it again, and when I go back and do another one, we'll make sure that our publicity is up and running, the day I hit print on the script. And right now we're working with an amazing publicist that's really helping us, that we really hired on a few weeks ago. And when we start doing the next project, she's probably my first call to say, all right, start generating the buzz, because we want Sundance, we want Cannes, we want South by.
Well, and it's funny to piggyback on that. Eric and I, when we were in the Beverly Hills Festival, we went to they have all these little workshops and things where they have panels of producers and writers and things like that. And the one panel we went to, there was this French guy who was trying to explain, like, how do you get money for your film? Like, how do you find financing for your film and stuff? That was the purpose of this panel. And this French guy in the panel goes, let me tell you the story of how I got my filming. I went to Cannes and I bought a billboard and I just put the word tsunami on the billboard. I did not have a script. I did not have a star. I did not have anything but a title. I put this billboard up at Cannes. I got the call. I got $12 million to film Tsunami. So all you really need is something like that. And
it's the billboard.
It's the billboard. And we looked at each other like, what the fuck is going on here? And so to this day, I could show you texts from the last week where Eric and I just go back and forth. It's all about the billboard. I mean, it's been 2 years and we still laugh at how ridiculous that was.
The other moment that we had where we were looking at ourselves going, why hasn't this movie sold yet? And this was 2 years ago when we were at Beverly Hills. We were wondering, how is this movie not sold? Because we were talking to some very seasoned filmmakers, and our movie, of every movie in that film festival, had the biggest stars in it. Every time we mentioned, or they saw our poster, or they heard who was in our movie, they were like, oh my God, who's your distributor? And we're like, we don't have one. And that goes back to that, some distributors were really shying away from, some of the more provocative moments in the film. And keep in mind, none of our provocative moments are in any way exploitive or over the line or anything like that. But as Breckin says, there's some polarizing subject matter and things that people are uncomfortable talking about, even though they are probably experiencing some of those things. But we're at this festival going, we have the biggest names in this festival. Why are we not, why is this movie not already sold? And to this day, it still baffles me a little bit. But, and then it makes you kind of question, did we stick to our guns too much on this script? Did I have too big of an ego of my vision for this movie, and should I have gone more mainstream?
No. I'll interrupt you and tell you right now, the just the way the movie comes out, it's good. If you like movies that, and it is a weird thing to say, but if you like The Clockwork Orange or stuff like that, just real, or Sixth Sense, or they just real mind fuck movies, this is a really good movie. If you're a movies kind of person that likes movies for movies, not Fast and Furious and cookie cutter crap, you're gonna enjoy the shit out of this movie. I really dug it, man. You guys did a great job on this, man. I'm not gonna lie.
I appreciate that.
Thanks,
we're excited.
Heck yeah. Now let's get to the ultimate crux of it and wrap this puppy up. When does this movie come out, and how can people get it?
April 6th. It's going to be released on Apple TV, Google Play, Fandango Now, and Vimeo.com.
Vimeo on demand.
Or Vimeo on demand. Yep, I'm sorry. You can stream it there on April 6th, or you can pre-order your DVDs now. Walmart.com, Amazon.com, FYE, several other retailers. Just search The Enormity of Life movie, or you go to enormityoflifemovie.com. We have a trailer up there. We have links to all of the different locations you can see it.
Once the movie is available and is actually online, our website will have every streaming option, whatever you like, plus links to 4 or 5 retailers that are selling it. But you can pre-order the DVD already. And Apple TV we're really excited about because that's such a big platform now.
Right.
Cherry, which was also shot in Cleveland, is an Apple original. So we're not an Apple original, but we're on the biggest, hottest platform in the world right now. And that really excites us that people have a real opportunity to see this on a large scale. And we want everybody to go out and see it. And not just because, hey, when people buy our movie, eventually we make some money, but Breckin, Emily, Giselle, Alan, Deb, Bryant, the actors in this acted their asses off and deserve to be seen bringing these eccentric yet very real characters to life.
Yeah.
And I just want everybody to see what they did.
And again, it's all local Cleveland talent. I mean, some people, the one woman who comes to mind is Melinda Rodriguez, had never acted before. She just, she wanted to start acting and came to an audition and it just hit the audition out of the park. And she plays the cashier in Happy Burger and just does, with her facial expressions and every little subtleties, just does an amazing job. And,
I'm so happy for her because I know working with, her very first thing she's ever done is in a scene with Breckin Meyer and Giselle Eisenberg. And I know the whole time she was so starstruck that the very first time I yelled action for her, she just forgot to walk on set and she just stayed in the back of the restaurant. She heard me yell action. She's like, I heard you. I just forgot what you meant because she was just thinking, I got to go out and say my lines to Breckin Meyer. And so I'm so happy for her.
Yeah.
People like that to have their moment.
Yeah. And, there's just so many really, really talented local people who are in this film. So my guess, like you said, Joe, if you're in Cleveland and you're over 40, you probably know somebody in this film. So every single person over 40 in Cleveland should buy this film because somebody is in it.
Definitely. Just a simple fact. If you're watching this, you know me, or Carmen, or Eric, or Alan, or something like that. So go out and watch the movie and support this kind of stuff because you don't want the Hollywood crap that's going to come out. It's all going to be digital monsters fighting each other and bullshit. This is a deep movie with a lot of thought put into it, and these guys put their heart and soul into it. Go out there and support independences, man. It's great. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. I'd like to thank John, who's no longer on screen, Deb as well, Mr. Alan O'Reilly. Check him out on IMDb and everything else. Eric and Carmen, thanks for joining us as well. You can subscribe to the show, click the bell. Anything else before we get out of here, guys?
Nope.
Just support independent films. That's where the stories are being told.
And you can check out John Kalman, Kalman, his music. He's got a website, and his last album called A Drive Awake is really amazing. And 2 of those songs are on our soundtrack. So thanks again, Joe. I appreciate it.
Appreciate everybody. As always, get infected. We'll talk to you guys.
Good seeing you, Alan.
Good to see you.
All right.
Can't wait.